Hi, welcome to the latest edition of Ragic Office Hour. Let's get started by doing a recap on our latest features. And today we'll be looking at our reporting feature. So when you want to generate a report, you could do something like this. When you're on the sheet, you could go to reports and you can just choose a report. For example, let's choose a ranking report, and it's going to be generated using your current data. And before this update, you will see the filters that you have here, but they are kind of fixed. You cannot change your filters here. But how do you add a filter here? You can either do a filter before you open the report. For example, I could say I want to list only unanswered records, and I go to reports and generate a ranking report, and it's gonna be filtered by only like unanswered records. So this is one way, and another way would be to save the report as a report, like office hour questions, office hour question report. And you can add filters here so that when you go into the report, you could apply these filters on the the fields that you have specified here. So if you save a report here, and you will be able to do filters before you go into the report. And now we have added an additional way for you to more conveniently change the current filter on your report. So when you go to a report, for example, I have already filtered for unanswered questions. So I want the status to be unanswered. And it's going to be filtered by unanswered. And if you want to remove this, you could just remove this and apply the filter. So the filter will be removed. And you can also add filters here. For example, I want to say the submit time should be after September 1st. So we could apply the filter, and we'll only see the questions submitted after September. So this is a good way to kind of a more convenient way to change the current filters without going away from the current report or going back to the sheet or needing to save this as a saved report. And this also works on saved reports too. So we do think that this is a very convenient way to handle different types of filterings on your report. So, try it out. All right, so let's go back to the questions. First question, how to add a column to subtable without redesigning and losing existing data entries? Okay. I'm not sure how to solve this right now. I've built a subtable with these fields, product name, quantity, price. After I choose a product name, the price loads automatically. Quantity is filled in manually. Okay. After using a while, I want to change the subtable to product name, quantity, quantity by box, price, and a hidden field called quantity/box. And quantity/box also loads automatically when I choose a product. I plan to use it in a formula in the quantity field, so I can enter quantities either by box or by pieces. Okay, the formula will be something like if the quantity by box is greater than 0, then multiply quantity by box by quantity per box. Okay, all right, that makes sense. That should be pretty simple to do with formulas. You could just refer to check if the quantity is 0 or check for empty and do a little conditional formulas. So my problem is I don't know how to add a subtable field in the middle of quantity and price. Okay, actually to add a field inside the subtable is actually pretty simple. Let me find a sheet with subtables. So if you're doing design on this, you could just add a field to the end of the to the end of the subtable, and you just like drag and drop, move it to the front. So with either new fields, old fields, you could just drag and drop them anytime to reorder them. So this is actually quite simple. You don't need to like use the right mouse key to do that. But I suppose for some people it's not that intuitive to know that these are draggable. So I'll see how to make this a bit more obvious for all users. But it's actually really simple. You could just drag and drop them to reorder them. Okay. The insert, yeah, you don't need to insert column, but insert column might be a good idea to support this. You know, for people who didn't realize that they can just add a field to the end and drag it. The new column added merges to the subtable field next to it. When I try to rearrange merge cell, yeah, you don't need to do that. Didn't work either. Just doesn't give me a blank subtable field. The only way I found so far is to redesign the whole subtable, delete price, add quantity. Yeah, the only thing missing would be the drag and drop. But if I do that, I lose all my existing subtable data in existing entries. Okay. It's actually really simple to rearrange subtable fields. Just drag and drop them in design mode to reorder them. This way, just add the new field to the end of the subtable and move it to the location that you like. Okay, yeah, this is probably just missing a simple UI maneuver to do this. So it should be, you should be all right. Okay, we'll see how to make this more obvious, that this is drag and drop, make it more obvious. Okay, next question. Taking information from 2 sheets to 1. Hello, I have an invoice sheet that will have status, whether it's paid or whether it's not paid. Oops. Just a sec. There we go. And second, I have an expense sheet that will also have the same status, whether it's paid or whether it's not paid. So these are 2 separate sheets with 2 fields. They are both called status, but I suppose they are independent fields. I'm thinking of creating a new sheet to see my money projection, which will be my current money, manually entered, and account receivable, all the invoices from invoice sheet with status unpaid, plus account payable or expenses from expense sheet with status unpaid equals my money projection. Okay. So for the new sheet, the money projection, it will be a matter of which invoices and which expenses should be included in one money projection record. So that would be the main thing that you will need to specify on your money projection sheet. When the status in invoice sheet moves, for example, to paid, the number will add up to current money and deduct account receivable. Same work for account payable. That makes sense. I haven't succeeded in doing this, not knowing how to aggregate the whole sheet entries according to status to the new sheet, and will appreciate help for that. Thank you. Okay. I guess when you're saying what you're describing should be you would like to have the money projection sheet reflect all the invoices that's unpaid, and expense sheet that has the status being unpaid on the money projection sheet. Let me think about this, because this is not a very common way to do this. Because we still need to kind of find a way to link the invoice sheet and expense sheet to the money projection sheet. But in your case, it looks like you're linking every single record. So it's kind of weird. So okay, so let's say that we're working on a project. So let's link it with a project. And if you don't want the project, you could have like only one project, but you still need something to link between these sheets. So let me go to, oh, we have a project here, income and expenses. Okay. Yeah, let's see if I can use this. We have projects and income based on project and expenses based on project. Okay, that will work. So let's try, based on the project and income expenses, let's try creating the money projection sheet. So let's see how we do this. So we create a new sheet. So let's call it money projection. So because we're dividing them by projects, so first of all, we will need to choose a project. So this is the project that we're doing the money projection for, okay? And yes, but in this case, we actually don't even need the money projection sheet. I'm finding this to be not really necessary, because we could just add a field here on the project to add up these income expenses using a SUMIF, like if unpaid, and we just do a summation here. We don't really need a separate sheet to do this. Yeah. So let me exit this. So we just go to the project sheet and we can add these kind of, this is income and expenses. Let's do a little bit of, this is income and expenses. This is tasks. Okay, so it has a, so let's change the status like paid and unpaid here, and oh, this is, oops, yeah, this is task. I'm updating the wrong one. So income type, let's add a status, paid, unpaid. And we go to expenses, we have status, paid and unpaid. All right, here we go. So now we want to add up all the income expenses, income items that are unpaid, right? We need the current money manually entered status unpaid plus status unpaid. So we want to add up all items that are unpaid in this table. Okay. So projection. So this should be a money field, and the formula would be sum if the E16 dot raw equals unpaid, then we will add up D16, guess, plus something very similar for the expenses. So it will be for the row 21. And the amount is on the row D. Okay, I think this should work, probably. Okay, so let's say we have 12 unpaid. Okay, let's see where we got it wrong. Income 200 unpaid. Okay. All right, I don't remember every formula that well, so let's go check out the design guide. Formulas. Sum if. Okay, criteria. Oh, range criteria. Range criteria sum range. Subtable field to be checked if value fits. Okay. And criteria that defines which cells in range will be added. Okay. So that's like a little edit here. So like this. No? Let's take another look. Haven't write this formula for quite a while. Multiple criteria. Okay. don't know. Looks right to me. Yes. Let me simplify this. So I'll just do the debugging here. Let me simplify this. So let's say if I can add the income first. Still no? Yeah, I'm not the most familiar with formulas, but I'm fine with like figuring it out here. Pretty much like how everyone else, like when they're learning Ragic formulas, is trying to figure out formulas. So yeah, this is almost like identical to my case. I don't know why it's not working. A4 and adding B4 the amount, and A4 needs to be Apple. Yeah, it's like the exact same thing. Not need a raw? What? Okay, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. I used to think that in these cases, when you're referring to a selection field, that you need to add a dot raw. So that's kind of my impression. I guess there has been some changes, so that in this case it doesn't really. Oh, I guess it's probably in the sum if it doesn't need a dot raw. So okay. So this way this should work. And okay, let's go back and do the full formula. There we go. So 21, right? And the income is the 16, so the expenses should be like minus. So it's a minus the unpaid expenses. All right. So income we have like $5,000, and expenses are these are unpaid expenses. If you change them to paid, and you will have projection right here. So if you change it to unpaid, and it's gonna have a number right here. So yeah, this should be a pretty good way to do this, and you should have the thing that you would need is to have the income and expenses linked to certain item, for example, project, so that they could be under the same record, so that we could do a formula to calculate them. And if you want, you can only create like one project, and every single income and expenses, they are just under the same project. All right. You need a sheet to connect these two sheets. For the example in the webinar, I used a project sheet, and you should choose a project for invoice and expenses. This way you will be able to use a formula on the project sheet to add up the invoices and minus the expense, subtract expenses, subtract, not subtract, subtract the expenses with a formula as demonstrated in the webinar recording with a summit formula. Okay, yeah. So you should taking a look at this. The webinar video should be helpful for you. All right. Okay, so that's it for the questions for today, and thank you for joining into the Ragic Office Hour. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to use the Office Hour question sheet to ask your questions, and I will be talking to you in 2 weeks. Thank you and goodbye.